Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Kiss are retired. Hi everybody, welcome to a new episode of the vlog. I have just finished watching the pay-per-view live stream of the final Kiss concert from Madison Square Garden, the last show of the End of the Road World Tour, and the last show of Kiss as a touring entity, or the last show of Kiss as an actual live touring entity as they launched into... This is my first video I've taped since the launch of Kiss 2.0, the new era. I have my thoughts on that. We'll get to that a little bit later. The main focus of this video is going to be just the show, the last show from Madison Square Garden. Before I get too deep into this, I just want to tell you all that according to the Kiss message boards and stuff, I am a sheep. And I've always been a sheep. I've always supported Eric and Tommy. I've always liked this current lineup as a Kiss fan since about 2006 or so. Don't hate on me for being newer. In 2006, I was like 10. But as a fan only since 2006, Eric and Tommy, this current lineup is the only one I've known that's actively been performing. And don't get me wrong, I love the Ace Frehley and Peter Criss lineup. I still listen to that lineup stuff more than any other lineup Kiss has ever had, and I'm a super fan, but I love what Eric and Tommy have brought to the live band, to the touring band, and I understand why Gene and Paul would want this to be their night as much as theirs. I gotta say, when I log into Kiss message boards and stuff, I'm always amazed by how it feels like nobody hates Kiss more than Kiss fans. I go on there and I see so many people like, thank God they're not they're gonna stop touring. They've been touring for way too long. Kiss should have ended in, and then insert a year here. Kiss should have ended in 1978. Kiss should have ended in 2000 when they did the last farewell tour. Kiss should have ended in 2018 before they did this End of the Road tour, which uses, like, vocal help and stuff, and unacceptable, and I hate it. But I will never understand the argument that, I'm mad at Kiss, they should have given me less. Like, I don't get how people can complain, like, they should have retired 20 years ago. I can't believe that they're still providing entertainment. That sucks, I hate it. I was born in 1995, maybe I'm a little bit biased. By the time that I got into Kiss, the farewell tour was long over, and I got to see Kiss 7 times. I had to do some math, but between 2009 and last month, I saw Kiss 7 times. So grateful I had that opportunity. And when I was a kid, first getting into Kiss in like 2008, when they announced they were going to start ramping up touring again with the Alive 35 tour, I never would have guessed that they would be around for yet another 15 years after that. I'm 27 now, and I'm still, just tonight, I wasn't there live, but I got to go see a Kiss concert online, and it's all over. What am I going to do with my life now, guys? Not only were there no special guests, there was no Ace Frehley, there was no Peter Criss. We all kind of knew that already from stuff that was coming out in the weeks, months, years leading up to this. It's funny, right? When this tour was starting in 2018, I really believed that Ace and Peter would have some involvement. Ace, of course, was like touring with the Gene Simmons band in 2018, right before the End of the Road tour, and I don't know. I'll never know. I get the vibes that they were in talks with at least Ace. Maybe not serious talks. It's interesting to me that while Kiss were planning the End of the Road tour, they invited Ace to like appear on the Kiss cruise, and he reunited with the band in the acoustic show on the cruise in 2018. And like I said, he toured with the Gene Simmons band, and he was apparently going out to lunch with at least Gene, if not Paul as well. There was like serious buzz that he would like be a special guest at the tour, or maybe take part in the tour in some capacity. I wonder if there were ever talks that fell through, if something went wrong, or if it was never actually something seriously considered. The cynical amongst the Kiss Army will say that they deliberately started hanging out with Ace again to get people to buy tickets and think he might be a part of the tour when he never would be. I tend to not get too deep into the like Kiss-spiracy theories. My ultimate fantasy for this show would have been for the encore when Eric Singer was going to come out, if the piano came up and it was Peter. That would have been epic, and Peter got to do Beth, but that's not the timeline we wound up on. This show, solely Gene, Paul, Tommy, Eric, it was the exact same show they played last night, and it was the exact same set list and show they played over the course of the majority of this year. This was the set list remained pretty constant throughout the whole year. Okay, I'm gonna try to attack this with some structure. I literally finished watching this right before I hit record on the camera, so I'm a little bit scattered. I'm still trying to cope with the fact that Kiss retired 20 minutes ago. I don't know if I'm gonna be okay in the morning. This is a disaster. This is the end times for Kiss fans. But all in all, in terms of the live stream, the production lasted about 3.5 hours. It started at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, and lasted till like 11:30, 8:30. We got about a 45-minute pre-show, which honestly was pretty cool. I liked seeing it. Clearly they were having some troubles with their pre-recorded footage. I was a little bit worried when I launched into the stream. First of all, it took me like 5-10 minutes to get into the thing. I was like, I hope I didn't spend what wound up being $50 Canadian to see this, because it was choppy as hell. But clearly, I went back into the replay just to check, and the pre-show was pretty choppy still. So I think they were having some problems integrating their pre-recorded clips into the live show. But the show itself didn't really have any delay whatsoever on my end. The pre-show was really cool. An interview with Paul, an interview with Gene. I knew Gene would spend pretty much this entire day crying. He has said since the earliest promos for this tour, he's like, at the last show in New York, I'm going to be bawling. And at times he was a little bit in his pre-show interview. They were trying to get him to cry so hard. I forget what the female host's name was, but all of her questions were like, your mom, who passed away a couple of years ago, would have been so proud of you today. They were really tear-baiting. But, yeah. No, I mean, I get it. It's so crazy that Kiss as a touring entity is done. I still can't quite come to terms with it. But, yeah. Interviews with Gene and Paul. There was an Eric and Tommy joint interview. And some other people showed up to get interviewed, like Chris Angel. And then also, my favorite was Desmond Child. I personally have been going deep into Desmond Child's work this last few weeks. I really didn't understand the scope of hits that he wrote. Maybe I'll have to do a video on him someday, but it just so happens that last week and this week I was doing a lot of research on him, and then he showed up live in the pre-show to talk about his work with Paul and his work with Kiss. And of course he wrote so many hits for Bon Jovi and so many hits for like Aerosmith and so many more. Like, the amount of songs he's written or co-written that became huge hits is insane. And he talks about how Paul sort of taught him how to write these arena rock songs in the perfect way. So it was really cool to hear from him. But mostly through the pre-show, I was just like, okay, there's like 20 minutes until the last Kiss show. I was just kind of waiting for it to be over. But I should also mention, I loved the roundtable they had with Nick and Sophie Simmons, and then also Evan Stanley, of course, frontman of Amber Wild, who I just went to a few Kiss shows, so I just vlogged the Kiss Amber Wild show in Seattle. That'll be up on this channel in the next couple of days. But the interview with the three of them was so cool. They talked about how Gene and Paul are family men first, and then Kiss second, and how that's going to continue. They've always wanted to have more time for their families. Totally understandable. Gene, of course, is 74. Paul is 71. And was it Evan or Nick or somebody who said that Paul was talking about QTR, quality time remaining? That's totally fair. They've given us 50 years of rock and roll. So that was all really cool, but I was just waiting for the show to start, and from start to finish, I'm going to be honest, I locked myself in my room pretty much. I told everyone else who lives in the house, I was like, guys, I am not to be disturbed for the next 2.5 hours. I'm going to be watching a Kiss concert for the last time. So, no one bother me. And yeah, I danced and sang along to it one last time. The whole show start to finish. I don't really have a lot of song-by-song notes because, like I said, it's the same show that I saw 3 times when I went traveling around following Kiss on tour last month. I've already uploaded vlogs from my trip to LA, which included seeing Kiss at the Hollywood Bowl. And like I said, in the next couple days, I'll be uploading vlogs from the Seattle show where I got to see the Soundcheck VIP experience and my last ever Kiss concert in Vancouver on this past tour. So glad I got the chance to do that. I had so much fun. I will say the production value for the show, for the pay-per-view that is, was awesome. The actual live show portion of it went over great. Like I said, I didn't have any delays. It looked great. It sounded great. I heard some wrong notes and stuff here and there. Not a criticism of Kiss, but just to show that it was live. There were a couple of seconds here and there where the video feed would drop out and come back in, like very rarely. I say that as a positive thing. Now, I don't know if any of you watched the Elton John Dodger Stadium Last American show that was on Disney Plus last year. Elton, of course, on a farewell tour too. That show, there was something about it that seemed too perfect. I can't explain what it was. I'm sure Disney put big dollars into that. But, I don't know. He did 2 last shows, just like Kiss did. And I wonder if big chunks of it were actually recorded at the first night's show, and then there was some live stuff added in. It just seemed to all flow too perfectly. And I had to go and check, and he did wear the same outfit both nights. But, I mean, same with Kiss. They could have thrown some stuff in that they recorded last night. Maybe they did. I don't know. But it felt very live, and it felt very well done. A couple of little things, like there was a tiny bit of delay. It almost sounded like one of the guitars was a little delayed from the other one, or there was some sort of echo. It may have been something to do with, I wonder if there was sort of a rogue room mic. I noticed that between songs, you could hear unusually clear detail of a couple of people, presumably sitting very close to wherever they recorded the ambient sound for the show, talking about like, oh, excuse me, I'd like to sneak into your row. Like, could you excuse me? Like little like audience things from just this one row that was very close to the mic. So I wonder if that was a little boosted in the signal than they intended it to be. But again, I see these as positives and proof that this really was totally live, that they didn't pre-plan anything, that we were just seeing the show as it was today. While the show was the same as the one I saw, like I keep saying, it was distinctly different vibes-wise. I mean, you could tell that crowd was electric. The crowd was full of Kiss fans, not just from New York, but Kiss fans from everywhere. A few years ago, before COVID ruined everything, Kiss announced the last show at Madison Square Garden would be July 17th, 2021. And through the early months of 2020, I was thinking I was going to make an attempt to get out there for the last show. But COVID happened. July 17th, 2021 became December 2nd, 2023. And life went a different direction for me. And I was no longer able to justify the idea of making a crazy trip to New York. And honestly, I know that some people out there are like, of course Kiss are making this a paid live stream event to squeeze as much money from Kiss fans as they can before it's all over. But before they announced this, I was like, they have to do a pay-per-view. I will pay to get in and see even a virtual version of this show. And even though, yes, after taxes, I spent $50.19, which is more than I really wanted to. But yes, they are Kiss, and we are their fans, and we are notorious for spending too much money on them, and I have done so one last time. There were definitely some added gaps between the songs where the crowd would, where Gene and Paul would just kind of soak in the crowd energy, which again was crazy at this show with all the diehards there. Paul did his big last "We Will Never Forget You" type song intro before "Do You Love Me" in the encore, and they cut to Gene, who was sobbing a little bit, which again, I knew they'd get to the encore and it would be like that. I may have shed a tear myself during the exit interview after the show. The exit interview with Gene right after he left the stage was amazing. The host talked to Gene for what felt like 5 or 10 minutes right after he left the stage. Again, there seemed to be more tear baiting around that time with the questions, but he was emotional. But I'm just glad we'll always have that. We'll always have this wild interview with Gene the second he stepped off the stage for the last time. I was really hoping we'd get Paul, but who knows where Paul went when that show was over. I know when Wayne Gretzky retired, he says he took hours to take off his skates after the game was over. I feel like Gene and Paul are just going to sleep in their makeup for a week. You never know. That would be gross. But it must be hard for them, probably right now, somewhere out in the world, they're taking off that makeup, and I don't know, like, will they ever put that on again? Let me know in the comments if you think Gene and Paul, and maybe Eric and Tommy as well, will ever put on the makeup again. But that exit interview was wild. They had an exit interview with, like, Shannon Tweed, who I didn't really follow what she was talking about. I don't mean to be rude to her. I was more just, like, trying to come to terms with the fact that Kiss was over. But they had George Lopez and a few others, but I, again, was sort of staring at the ground, my eyes wide, like, what am I going to do? Kiss is done. But, yeah, Rock and Roll All Night ended. I'll get into that, actually. Rock and Roll All Night ended, but there was still, like, a whole half hour left in the stream because it was time to reveal Kiss 2.0. So this got out over the last few days that at the end of this show, there would be an announcement about Kiss's future. But Kiss is retiring. What future will they have? Yesterday or this morning or sometime, I heard it got kind of leaked that there was going to be something to do with holograms, is what I'd heard. Doc McGee had said in an interview a couple days ago that Kiss had spent, I think he said, nearly $1 million on a big surprise for the end of the show. My genuine guess was that there were going to be these holograms of Kiss, maybe looking like they would have in the 70s, coming out and joining them on stage for, like, Rock and Roll All Night or something. How cool would that have been if they'd choreographed Rock and Roll All Night to have these, like, avatars of Kiss in the 70s coming out alongside them? But what actually happened was after the real Kiss was done at the end of Rock and Roll All Night, they sort of launched into what was effectively a promo film. There was no physical representation of these avatars, but they launched into I think you can find this online because it's promotional. Kiss wants to share this. A little video of these new characters they're calling avatars that I guess are going to carry Kiss forward into the new era. They were very, extremely vague. Like, they didn't say what these avatars would be. They didn't say they would be a Vegas show. They didn't say it would be a touring show. But now I'm reading in pages and stuff that they had sort of implied that it would be a touring show, which would be really cool. But, you know, I don't want to be negative, but I hope they're not the final models. I'm sure they worked really hard on them, but I may or may not have gotten some slight Psycho Circus music video vibes. The music video they made in 1998 using modern, new technology that dated itself very quickly as technology progressed. It's a really cool idea. I couldn't help but think of going back to Doc McGee's comments that if you're going to create avatars of the band to continue their legacy, maybe nearly $1 million, which sounds like a lot. Maybe that's not an adequate budget. I don't know what ABBA paid the company that made their holograms, which, by the way, is the same company. It turns out that this project was literally from Pop House, the group founded by Bjorn from ABBA, to make the ABBA holograms and go into that sort of field of entertainment, which, who knows, maybe that'll be the next big thing in the next 10, 20 years, with all of these major acts doing their farewell tours seemingly at the same time and retiring from the active duty of traveling city to city to perform their songs. But apparently, yeah, Kiss went to Pop House, and this is made by that same company. I guarantee ABBA put more than $1 million into that. ABBA or whoever financial backers were involved with it. I'm probably hyperfixating on that. It's very possible that Kiss had this idea semi-recently. One of the things they were showing was they had a clip of, like, Paul and Gene and the whole band, really, in these motion capture suits, sort of doing their stage moves and getting motion captured for these animated figures. I'm sure in the next few weeks we'll get a little more clarity on what they plan to do with these avatars. But, yeah, not really sure. This is all just came out. I haven't really gone online and seen anybody's reactions to them, but I can't explain what it was about them. They looked very like 2004. And also hearing the band and Doc talk about it in the post-show interviews was kind of silly. Doc talking about how I believe his exact quote was that they're going forward using technology and things. I believe the press release says that Kiss are the first band of all time to go virtual. This stuff all sounds like it would be so impressive if this was 2005 or so. Right now, I'm just focused on the amazing Kiss legacy that they founded through 50 years of live performances dating back to 1973. It is so awesome to me that the scope of Kiss's career went the way it did. There were ups, there were downs, but I don't know. To me, it all makes sense. Kiss songs, like I think of songs like Cold Gin. They've got their verse, they've got their chorus, they've got another verse, they've got another chorus, you know? They've got maybe a guitar solo and you think the song is over now. And then they've got, like, they'll go back into the riff. They'll do, like, another verse, and then they'll do, like, a big chorus at the end, and then a whole end thing. Kiss have always sort of stretched their songs to the maximum, and Kiss sort of stretched their career to the conceivable maximum. The farewell tour in 2000, I get how that was, how it would have been a cool bookmark to end it with the same lineup that started the band. But I'm glad they kept going into the years I could see them live. It seemed like the second, about 5 or 6 years ago, that we said, oh, I don't know how much longer Kiss can continue in their current state. That instead of just eventually 1 year us not getting any new tour dates and it sort of petering out, I know people have been kind of critical of this tour, but even though there was certainly some technical help behind the scenes, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say Paul is lip syncing. Upon watching all these shows that I went to and seeing like the live stream today and all the stuff, I think he's singing live and what's coming out is being either heavily pitch corrected or I don't know. I don't think it's just tracks. But in any case, Kiss fans had a problem with this tour, but it meant like a few hundred more shows. It meant Kiss could do one, more like 2 full laps of the world again. The big victory lap. Gene is 74. Paul is 71. Paul unfortunately got sick last week, and 3 of the last shows of this tour had to be postponed as just kind of another reminder that they cannot go on and do this together as the 4 of them. Not just Gene and Paul. I mean, the youngest member is Tommy, and he's 63. He just turned 63. So it can't go on forever. I'm glad that they went out the way they did. And I'm thankful for the ride that they put me on over the last 17 years of being a Kiss fan and over the last 50 years of being around. There are people who could have gotten into Kiss when they were 10 years old, who would be like 60 watching this last show. Just an amazing career arc for them. Thank you for being Kiss. Thank you for everything. I will be eager to check out the next few weeks of seeing what comes out in terms of what on earth is going on with these avatars. I'm not particularly worried about it. I mean, if it means a continuation of being excited about future projects having to do with Kiss, then I'm all for it. But we'll see. We'll have fun. I'm going to mourn the loss of the real-life touring Kiss for a little while. Thank you for watching this video. Check out this channel for some more videos, like I said, from me following Kiss around on the End of the Road tour in these next few days. And I'll catch y'all again soon.